the computer. Hello and welcome to this free webinar. I will be teaching you the 3 steps you need to take to get rid of your imposter syndrome. My name is Ellicia Turner, and before we begin, I want to set some intentions for the next 45 minutes or so. There is a lot of noise out there right now vying for your very valuable attention. And most of these things are empty promises, empty distractions, empty indulgences, and they don't actually provide any value or positive return in your life. After you indulge in them, you find yourself out of time, out of money, and you feel a little ripped off at the end. This webinar is not going to be like that. I'm going to use your time very wisely here. I'm going to actually teach you the 3 critical steps that have been proven to work at getting rid of imposter syndrome. These are the exact steps I use to transform so much of my life, my relationship to myself, how I started my own business. I took back my freedom and options that were once partially owned at my old day job. And at the end of this webinar, if you want to learn more about working together and what that would look like, that's great. I'll tell you about that later. Just stick around. First and foremost, I'm going to give you the 3 implementable steps that you can start using now, this week, today, whatever. My goal here is to help you, whether you work with me or not. So let's dive in. Let's learn about the 3 steps that will finally free you from imposter syndrome and get you back into the driver's seat of your life. This is not a fluff piece. This is the real deal, nitty-gritty, hard shit right here, okay? And it is hard. Don't be fooled by the simplicity of the language. Let me start with some proof. My authority on this topic, I started studying and learning about imposter syndrome and kind of all of my trauma in 2017 and doing deep dives, deep work there. And the reason I started this self-research was because up until 2017, I'd been pretty miserable. My mental health was awful. My anxiety was through the roof. I always had bouts of depression. I wanted to be anyone else but me. And I think that was at the heart of it. That is at the heart of imposter syndrome. We don't want to be ourselves because we feel ourself isn't enough. And I don't say this to make you feel sorry for me at all. I'm in a great place now. I want to say this outright because I didn't know that's what I was doing back then. I didn't consciously wake up and say, I want to be someone else today. It's so in the depths and in the dark recesses of our subconscious that it takes a long time to find. And if this is where you are, then this webinar is for you. This is a sentence you may not have known you've been believing, but it's creating all of these symptoms in your life of dissatisfaction, confusion, a sense of being lost. And it kind of also shows up like this. This is how it showed up for me. I was constantly conforming, trying to fit in with all the people around me. You know, you got to follow the trends. You got to buy all the new things. You got to keep up with the Kardashians, right? You can't lose face. You got to show up and look good. You got to go to this thing. You got to go to that thing. It's so normalized as a way of being that we don't even see how disempowering this is, how it hurts us. I would end up begging the universe to change me, make me different, make me more like these people. I wouldn't say those sentences outright. I wouldn't look in the mirror, put my makeup on and say those words, but I would feel the effect of those words. I would feel anxious. I would feel scared. I would feel terrified. I would feel worthless. I would feel insecure. And those feelings were trying to help me find that language. So that's what was really going on for me under the surface. I would end up feeling so defeated. I'd go out, I'd show up, I'd be like, maybe this will finally be it. This will finally be the time I'm good enough. But of course, that never happened. You don't get that kind of relief or shift from doing something, buying something. It's impossible to be anyone but your most authentic self. And when we're trying to be a different version of ourselves, it's painful. Running away from who you really are trying to mend and conform yourself to other molds, it's impossible. And I had been doing it for so long, I didn't even know I was doing it. It wasn't conscious at all. But I knew that it never felt right. And I knew that I felt out of place in my own skin and with my own voice. And I didn't have a sense of style. And something was wrong. Like I was somehow a fraud or a fake everywhere I went and in everything I did. I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. Everywhere I turned, I kind of sensed that I was an outsider. And that created a really poor self-image, self-concept, self-worth that bled into my education, my career plan, all of my relationships. I used to sit in classrooms, whether it was back in high school or even my senior year in college, and I'd tell myself, I don't belong here. I shouldn't even be allowed to be in this class. I'm not good enough to be here. I'm not smart enough. Everyone else knows more than me. They're all going to find out I'm ignorant and kick me out. I just got over a cold, so I'm very mucusy, so bear with me. Even if I knew the answer and everyone else was like, I wouldn't even say it. I wouldn't even share that I've got the right answer because I would be doubting well, I can't be right. If it's coming from my brain, that's not right. I was certain I couldn't have the right answers. There was this stark separation between my intellect, like what my intellect could do, and then what my emotions were actually feeling about myself. I could go through the motions of schooling and do really well and perform, but my emotions were not on board with me. And you can't leave fragmented parts of yourself behind. That's not how the human experience works. You need all the parts working and functioning and cared for. And so my emotions were not on board. There was no self-belief backing me up. I had no confidence. I couldn't attach my confidence to my voice, so I just silenced myself. The success of my intellectual results were not enough to convince my emotions. Like, hey, I am good enough. Like, hey, look, I graduated. Hey, look, I did really well. Oh, look how the teacher held up my assignment and said it was amazing. Didn't matter. I still thought I was out of place. It was a feeling. And so my emotions, in retrospect, I realized had been left back way back in my childhood. When I learned how to cope and survive, when I was traumatized but didn't know I was traumatized. And so I left all of that behind, and all I knew how to do now was shut down, shame myself, question myself, and doubt my own experience. We need our emotions. They are valuable and useful and vital. They are so important to have along with us on our journey, working and functioning. They are not out here to hurt us. They are not out here to scare us. They are here to help us. And we cannot compartmentalize them because a fragmented life with only certain parts functioning well is extremely unfulfilling, and it causes disconnection between you and yourself. And if you're disconnected from yourself, you're disconnected from everyone, everything else. It's not possible to be connected to another human if you're disconnected to yourself. It's a terrible foundation. I forbid you from continuing to build off of it. So I took physics, trigonometry up until graduation of college, mind you. And you got to know something to be in those high level classes, but it didn't matter. I just felt out of place. My emotions were shot. Something was off. And here's how it showed up in friend groups. I would be hyper self-focused and concerned that everyone was constantly thinking about me or judging me or secretly hating me, right? Not the case. They weren't thinking about me. Everyone's always thinking about themselves. But I would monitor myself in this prison of pretense to make sure that I'd say the right things and do the right things because I didn't want to be found out as this imposter. That is the essence of imposter syndrome. I had all the signs and symptoms up until 2017, and I was terrified being an imposter. And again, not consciously. All of this resided in my subconscious. I didn't have language for it. I couldn't put my finger on it. And so that's what I want to help you do today is through my story, notice, like sit and pause and notice if any of this sounds familiar to you, because it does create very calculated behavior, very strange behavior. And we think it's just so common to be so self-concerned and insecure, but just because maybe a lot of people are doing it, don't mean it's normal or you should keep doing it. Okay. It's so much more fun and relaxing to just be confident and not feel so insecure. So I want to start giving language to it and start talking about it so we can get more people out of that place too, because you don't need to stay there. It's not a permanent destination. Imposter syndrome is a mental and emotional location that you can 100% leave. The door is wide open, and I will teach you how to walk out. Because now, oh my God, night and day, I go to bed at night and I'm like, damn, I am so grateful to be me. I'm actually like happy I am me, right? This would be unfathomable in imposter syndrome version of myself. But now I wouldn't want to be anyone else, even if I could. It's almost like I find it a relief to be me. If I had to be someone else, that would be terrifying because I've grown so much with this person, right? I've learned how to operate this. I'm good at it now. I feel safe here. I feel empowered. And it's almost the opposite of what I used to do. I'd want to be other people. Do you feel that shift? Are you following? Like I went from being willing to sell my soul in exchange for looking and being more like other women that like my ex cheated on me with 10 years ago. I was like, "Oh, that's who I need to be. I want to be her." Right? That will give me everything I want. And now I'm like, "Don't even touch me. Don't change a thing about me. I love everything about me. All the nuance, all the good, all the bad. I feel amazing in my skin. I love who I am. And this is the shift I want for you." And I can promise you, it wasn't a pill I took. It wasn't a new outfit I bought. It wasn't all the compliments my husband gives me. It wasn't any specific action I took or circumstance outside of me that created this shift. So what happened? How did I do this? That's what I want to teach you today. I have to watch out because my dog sits behind me and I don't want to back that thing up, All right, we've got the 3 steps you need to take to get rid of your imposter syndrome. And all of it's happening on the thought level. 1, there's a giant perspective shift. 2, you got to gain way more awareness. And 3, you commit your life to a practice. So let's go through every step really quick. Again, this is the end of a cold. So what can you do? I'm a little scratchy. All right. Begin ridding yourself of imposter syndrome. The way to do that, there has to be a perspective shift that is big enough to trigger your subconscious mind to start paying attention. Otherwise, it's going to stay asleep. Okay. Imposter syndrome is a larger symptom of a narrow and limited life perspective, a perspective that has stopped serving you and it's stopped aiding your growth. It's now leaving you stuck, miserable, lost, confused, all the bad things. With a big enough perspective shift, your subconscious mind will perk up. It'll be like, oh, maybe this is interesting enough for me to care about. But if you do not offer it a giant perspective shift and maybe more than one, again, it's going to stay cozy and comfy with imposter syndrome. It's not going to find any reason to change. It's not going to have any interest in rewiring your brain and making you happier. It just doesn't care that much. So something or someone has to help cause this shift in the tectonic plates of your subconscious, okay? I can be that someone for you today. I'll help you get step 1 checked off before this webinar even ends. Here's the thing. Humans are conditioned to see through a very limited perspective for most, if not all, of their life. This is sad. They work under a very short ceiling when in reality, the sky is the limit. I am not game staying under this limited line forever. Like, I want to play bigger. We got some powerful brains, the same brain that Einstein had. So let's use it. So it goes like this. I think it's fuzzy because it's like darker out. Anyway, TLC. This does not stand for tender love and care. This is the perspective of trauma, limitations, and conditioning. I'm not here to teach you about all of these things today. This is a lot. The TLCs is a lot. You need to address your own trauma, whether you do that with your own education or with a specialist. But a life coach does not deal with trauma. That is not our wheelhouse. Second, you need to understand the generational limitations that have been passed down to you. The stories about money, about time, about security, about education that has been passed down to you for generations that are not working in this day and age anymore, right? Not while the socioeconomic political world crumbles down around us. Those ideologies are like dust in our hand now. We need something else. But when we stay under here, we just stay suffering. All right. And then we have the societal conditioning. This is a big hunk of your subconscious too, because it's all the isms in the world that are subconsciously wired into your brain. Your brain is open source code, and the world just decides, oh, this is how you're going to think about women. This is how you're going to think about Black people. This is how you're going to think about immigrants, right? This is how you're going to think about morality and right and wrong. This is how you're going to think about sex. You didn't even have a say. The world decided for you. And there's a lot about those isms that don't work anymore. They're working directly against you, but since they're wired in you, it's compulsive. You can't help but do or think the things you do and think. So this is sexism, racism, ableism, puritanism, capitalism, all the ickiness that's in these systems that, again, are crumbling to the ground. We don't have time to unpack each of these, but just trust my word. If you have not been taking a thorough amount of time to unpack the TLCs of your individual life, the shift is going to be harder for you. You're going to need more shifts to kind of trigger that subconscious to start paying attention. TLC is the why you carry this limited perspective, why you're playing under this line when the sky is the limit, okay? And it makes perfect sense. Nothing is wrong with you for being in this place. This is where we all are, basically. This is where we all start. It's just how we've been taught to think about and approach the world. This is it. We're like, do this forever. We live and die under this line, and we suffer so needlessly and waste so much of our time playing small when we absolutely could shatter this bitch and enter into the realm of possibility. Okay? Side note, I do teach my clients in my program the L and the C. That's part of the educational curriculum I offer. I do have jurisdiction over that area. I've already done years of my own research, and I just deliver it more concisely and simply so you can understand in a faster and easier way. But we also all have trauma, and you need to deal with that too. That's a big part of this line. It's holds down a lot of it. And so do something about that. Okay, moving on. So now check this. Here is your perspective shift. Let me offer you a little something. Your conscious mind has as many neurons as our galaxies have stars. Okay, I want you to think about that giant number of neurons in your brain. You are a reflection of the universe. You are consciousness aware of itself. You are an infinite, boundless being made up of the same stuff that galaxies are made out of. okay? And you came here, you came to be a human, to create the life of your dreams, to grow, to work hard, to live up to your fullest potential. You did not come here to do this. Please hear me. Please hear me. You can control your consciousness, and conscious thought is pure energy, and everything you create in your life is reflected by the thoughts you choose. I want you to see how much power you have. You haven't been taught this. You've been taught other things. Well, you got to follow the secure corporate plan and get a 401k. That's what you've been taught. And I'm saying bullshit. You are conscious awareness and you are powerful. Your time on earth is a mere second. If you compare it to our cosmic calendar, our universe is going to keep expanding and keep growing for another 100 billion years, and you will not be here to see it. Okay? It ends the same for us all. All of us humans, we die. And we don't know when, and we don't know how. None of it matters. And also, it matters so deeply. Your time here is vast and eternal, and it's also over in a second, a split second. You control everything in your reality, but you also control absolutely nothing on this planet. These are the paradoxes of spiritual philosophy, and I share them to help offer you a shift. We need you to shift the way you think about your day-to-day life, because you are playing the equivalent version of Snake on a Nokia cell phone when we have all of this VR and drones and insane technology that your brain needs to catch up with. Okay? 20 years ago, the world was very different. Our awareness was different. Our awareness of ourselves was so much more lacking just 20 years ago. But things have changed. Okay? It doesn't hold up against our world now. We got too much information. This is the information age. There's no reason we should keep playing this shitty game, okay? But let's look at this now. You were told, get a degree, get that job, have that family. You'll be good. You'll be happy. But now nothing is safe or predictable. Everything is changing. All of that's crumbling, and not in a good way, okay? We need empowered people to be part of this positive change we're wanting to create. We can't have a bunch of disempowered, traumatized people trying to solve problems. They're just going to be so overwhelmed and stressed out and shut down, okay? We need you to not shut down. We need you to not fear failure, not take any risks, and keep playing small. We need you to move up here, be empowered, free, connected, and so you can start helping people. If you are wasting your time feeling like an imposter, you're doubting yourself, your energy is draining, and you're so scared of failing. So what we need is one big shift or a few big shifts to crack this lineup so you can stand up again. So think on a more cosmic scale, right? We live in this universe. It's insane. I want you to stop thinking about your safety and your survival so much. That is what has motivated you up until this point in your life. And I want you to kind of laugh at yourself right now. You have been so motivated to survive and stay safe, and you're going to die anyway. So what if you just stopped worrying about that? Like, because it's absolutely going to happen. What if you stopped trying to survive and just accepted, like, I'm absolutely dying. Now what? What's next? Okay? Nothing is stopping you from dropping all of this, okay? You have enough proof now to see that you can survive. Nothing has killed you yet. You always figure something out. So I want you to start finding evidence for how you are resilient. Otherwise, your brain's going to keep making you afraid and keep you in fight or flight. Stop worrying about what your grandparents were worried about in the 40s. Okay, it's 2022 now. The world has changed, and unnecessary panic is not helping anything. We need to start evolving as a species, and this perspective shift is required for that evolution. As soon as you meditate a little more slowly on everything I just said, maybe hit rewind on the replay and watch this back. Let it sink in. Okay. this solid line should lift a bit and become fragmented. So if it doesn't feel that way yet, it just means you need to work on your TLCs some more, and you need to put things in a bigger perspective, right? You're seeing through your eyes all day. I want you to zoom out and see it from a cosmological viewpoint, okay? Because then it should start to look like this. So I want you to see the nuance here. This is that line. It's lifted, it's fragmented, but it's still there, okay? And these little shoots, these lines, this is your energy, right? These are your thoughts, your intentions, your direction. You're still going to hit up against trauma, conditioning, and limitations. They don't disappear. You're always going to be working with them about 50% of the time. They will never permanently go away, but they will stop being the thing that holds you back. You'll just have to deal with them when you hit them, but it's not a problem when you do. You shouldn't not hit them once you move out of imposter syndrome, but your brain will think it is a big problem. And it will take it as an immediate sign that, oh, this was a mistake. Let's go back to being an imposter. Let's hunch back down under this line. And that is why we need step 2. Step 2 is crucial. And this is the domain of life coaching. This is where Jedis go into your brain with you and bring more awareness, okay? If you really want to stop being afraid of failure, if you want to take more risks, you either need a life coach or you need to learn the skills of self-inquiry. And it is a skill you need to teach yourself. You don't know, we aren't born knowing how to do self-inquiry. Or if we are, we are conditioned out of learning it. So you'll have to relearn it. So you should be building more awareness at the same frequency you are showering and brushing your teeth, okay? Because we are 95% unconscious, which means only 5% of our life is determined consciously. This should terrify you. Every decision you make or don't make is decided based on your subconscious TLCs. That's your whole life. If you aren't aware of them, then you're riding in the passenger seat of your whole life. You're out of control. You think you're the one driving. You're like, look, I can actually literally drive a car. I'm here. But you're not. It's all subconscious. And the trajectory of your direction in life, it's not budging unless you start swimming in the deep sea of awareness on a weekly or daily basis. Here's the forecast for your future. You become one of your parents. It might be the nice one. It might be the mean one. It could be the flaky one you never even met. It doesn't matter. Some of you might be like, oh, good. I like my parents. I want to be like them. No, you don't. And not because anything's wrong with them, but because you're choosing from 2 options when you have 2 billion available to you. You don't know what you want until you see all of your options. You got to see more options before you make that choice. It's hard to talk when you have phlegm. I think I was supposed to flip that. Yeah, sure. Okay. Sorry. That's like, I want you to think of this analogy. Saying you want to be like one of your parents, even if they're amazing, which I have amazing parents, but it's like saying, I've only eaten oatmeal my entire life. I'm not even aware that French cuisine and sushi exists. And I tell you, I want oatmeal. I love oatmeal. Oatmeal is great. But no, it isn't. It helps you survive. It has sustained you up until this point in your life, but it ain't shit compared to fine dining on the Amalfi Coast. All right? You can't honestly decide what you want until you are able to browse and shop around. And you need to be aware of how to browse, where to browse, when to browse. Otherwise, you'll be repeating the same oatmeal pattern again and again and again, just with different places, different faces. And you will feel so unfulfilled at times, and you'll wonder why. This is why. You're denying yourself options. You're not acknowledging they even exist. You think you've made a sound decision from a limited perspective, but that's not a sound decision. And here's the thing, you can make that same decision. You could be like, oh, I've looked at all the options and I still want oatmeal. That's great. I'm so happy. But it's vital that you see that there's more out there. You know you have imposter syndrome whenever there's this invisible weight around your life. It's a pain, it's a confusion, and it's hanging on you. And that feeling is your soul suffocating under your subconscious lack of awareness. Your subconscious does not care about your dreams and your happiness because it's unconscious. But that 5% of you came here to fuck shit up, to do some really cool stuff. It's here to get what you want. And that 5% is enough to blow your mind, your community's mind, the world's mind. It's the same exact 5% that Einstein used, and he used it very well. He was a great example for us all. You have to use every ounce vigorously of this 5% of your conscious mind to transform and rewire the 95% unconscious. Your primitive brain will hate it. It will resist it the whole way through, but it can and should be done because you either die lonely and limited and miserable, or you can die abundant and fulfilled. Either way, you're dying. You might as well die happy, right? That's what you want. And here's the thing. Scientifically, it's possible. Like, we have the math to prove that you can get the things you want. They exist. There's a way forward. That is, of course, if it follows the laws of nature, but that's neither here nor there. To have the thing you want, to create whatever it is your heart desires, I want you to hear that that life exists right now as a possibility, and you can make it happen. I'm not saying that to sound cute and inspirational. I've literally got the physics to back it up. And part of that science is what helps me believe that all the things I want are possible. And it's what helps me create it, helps me help my clients create it. But if you keep trying to get there without gaining awareness, you will always be walking in a circle thinking you're going somewhere. And it looks a little something like this. Here's the little circle. So think you're going somewhere, but you end up right where you started. And the circumference is very, very small. And it just gets a little lonely. This isn't how life is supposed to be lived, right? This is boring. This is miserable. This isn't what humans were designed to do. We're not meant to walk in circles. We're meant to create incredible things and ignite change on this planet in a very positive way. But here's the thing. I can't give you all the awareness you need in one webinar, right? I'm here to tell you how to start getting that awareness. And you do that by asking more questions. You need to learn about self-inquiry. And if you feel like, oh, I don't want to do that, then hire a coach to do it for you, because that is exactly what they do. You just get to sit back and chill while the coach does all the awareness extractions. And self-inquiry in itself is limited. I did that for the first couple of years by myself, and it got me pretty far. But you can only get so far with yourself because you have blind spots, right? You need some kind of one-on-one attention to get into that subconscious area that your brain's just not willing to go. The blind spots are the most potent areas. That's the reason coaches have coaches, because we have our own massive black holes. We have egos just like you. We have beliefs that we think are just factual. So we all need a coach to guide us back to our truth. So I was here for my whole life. This is imposter syndrome. And let me show you where I am now. This is what it looks like to get out of this dreadful circle. This is how life goes when you decide to exit imposter syndrome. And there is science to this. This is exponential geometric growth. Okay. I'm probably like right here right now. Pretty cool. Pretty cool place to be. And I know where I'm headed. I know this is where I'm going. I am not on this ride anymore. And it feels amazing. And I want to get you to shift over here. This is what it looks like to shift operations from the trauma, the limitations, the conditioning to the realm of what's possible. Do you see the difference? I'm not saying it's going to be linear because it's not that. This is not how life goes for us. No, never expect that. That will be painful. But it is exponential and geometric, meaning you're going to go through waves of positive, negative emotion, but you're going to be moving forward and you're going to be expanding in a grand way. And that brings us to the last step, which is practice. Right now, imposter syndrome is, unless you're a monk, is likely your practiced way of being, whether you know it or not. It is most people's with a limited perspective. And you've gotten really good at it after all of these years. And in order to change the way you're being, and I don't mean change what you're doing or saying or the way you look, I mean change your being, the emotions emanating from your being, an entirely new and opposite direction. That's going to take time, consistency, commitment, and a shitload of practice. Because this is a brand new lifestyle we're creating. It's a whole new way of responding to and seeing the world. Change is imminent outside of us. But if we're running in circles, the frustration and the rage of not being able to respond to that change in an intentional and different way, it will suffocate us. We will die under that pressure as the change ramps up in this world. With all the things happening in the world, we need to be on top of our stuff, okay? We can't say stifled and limited and expect great things. It doesn't compute, doesn't add up. Feeling out of place, feeling limited, feeling afraid, it's not going to serve us in the way that getting out of imposter syndrome will. There's no reason to stay there anymore when we now have ways out, many different ways. Pick your route. I don't care what one it is. The spiritual shift in your awareness should be prioritized and treated like any other hygiene you keep up with. You don't brush your teeth once and then think you're done for the rest of your life. You don't bathe once and then throw away the bathtub. Your mental and emotional hygiene is a practice just like the physical hygiene we have. And so many of you are mentally stankin' right now. Making it a practice means you're having cosmic perspective shifts on the regular. You're gaining more awareness on the regular. And once that awareness has reached a certain point where, you're no longer just putting out fires and handling all the immediate problems, you're now kind of settled and you can look forward and you have an intention and you can practice gratitude for where you are right now. This is my lifestyle. I had so many cosmic shifts in my own life. And with these 3 exact steps, I was able to change the way I was being. Boop. I was able to start seeing the world differently and practiced looking at it in a different way. I had to practice. I had to rehearse it. That's what this practice is. You're fighting against that old wiring and urgency to just repeat this again and again, and you're practicing a new way. And I had been practicing the other way my whole life, so there is a lot of resistance to change that momentum. That's okay. These 3 steps will change the way you see and will help you shift this. And it's so important you change the way you see yourself, because If you can't look in the mirror right now and feel comfortable saying, I'm amazing, I love being me, I'm smart, I'm powerful. If any of that feels awkward or really uncomfortable, then you have imposter syndrome. And you don't solve for imposter syndrome by taking a specific set of actions or doing and saying the right thing in the right order. These steps are not actions, right? The steps I'm giving you are all mental shifts happening in your brain, in your emotions. This is the first required mental shift of many, right? These 3 steps to get rid of imposter syndrome, because mental states are what create all of our results. Not what we're doing, not what we're saying, but what we're thinking and feeling in our body, that combination of energy. So I don't, do what I'm doing. I don't get my clients. I don't make my money because of what I'm doing. I want that to sink in, because most of us think that's how the world works. We think we take action and then something happens. How it really works is who we're being. Our practice, thoughts, and emotions create those outside results in our lives. I had to change a lot in order to shift into this version of me. I was being a limited version, and I had to let go of a lot of trauma and conditioning and limitations and just get rid of and throw out those old operations. And I didn't practice being this way one time and then think, I'm done. I've got 7 years of momentum and practice behind me working these 3 steps. And that's what produces new results, is a way of being, a feeling emanating from your body, a presence, and a practiced mental state. So that's what creates our reality, not what we do, but what we think and what we feel. And what I mean by that is your average collection of thoughts and emotions, that's what determines your behavior. And your behavior, it does play a role, but we have to look at what comes first. The thought and the feeling creates the behavior. And if 95% of your thoughts are beyond and outside of your awareness, then 95% of your life has been outside of your control for a very long time. If you'd like to start controlling your reality more and use more of your time becoming aware of that 95%, then you can start holding the steering wheel more intentionally. Is this making sense? I hope it is. Do you see how I'm giving you a map out of imposter syndrome and how it's not about what you do, it's about who you practice being. And our state of being is largely unconscious until we get that Jedi in our life. So we either become it or we hire one. So if you're here watching this webinar, then I think you're ready for your Jedi. You're ready to take this work to the next level and apply it. You've been waiting, thinking you'll find the right thing soon, you'll read the right thing soon, and it will finally save you from your imposter syndrome, but you'll likely be waiting forever, because that's not how it works. You need to follow these 3 steps. 1, you get that shift in perspective that triggers your subconscious to pay attention. 2, you start gathering and gaining awareness like your life depends on it, because it does. And then 3, you start practicing and rehearsing all of these new shifts and noting the direction you're wanting to go in so you can move from this to this. I'm telling you, if you want to feel more confident, if you want a better money mindset, if you want to start that business, help all those people, unite your community, be the next great inventor, work for yourself, own a mansion in Italy, if you want to buy your friend a Rolls Royce, if you want to be friends with Beyonce, and no one in your family has done any of that before, then it's not going to happen until you follow these steps. Because what we don't have evidence for in our past will not compute in our subconscious. It will not take us there. We'll have to change everything down there in order to create something new, which means even if we would do anything to have the thing, We will never create it until we address what's going on under the surface, because 95% of our system will stop it if it hasn't been done before. It's not about what you do to get it. It's about who you're being. It's that shift internally that creates this. And you can meet Beyonce up here. She could be right up here. I'm not ruling it out for my own life. So let me tell you how you can work with me now. I am helping a small handful of humans one-on-one make this shift, gain all the awareness they'll need, and cement a new practiced way of being for themselves consistently so they can take their dreams all the way home. They are no different from you. There's nothing stopping you from getting everything you want. All you got to do is bet on yourself and believe that this shit works, because it does. I've got proof. I want you to stop walking in tiny circles. I want you to get after your own evolution. I want you filled with passion and fulfillment again so you can help the rest of this planet evolve too, because we need you. What's it going to take for you to start getting after it? I want you to think about that. And what's stopping you from getting after it right now? If it seems overwhelming, that's just because your brain is like, no, let's stay on autopilot. Let's stay unconscious. Let's stay miserable. That is literally it. Your brain is working against you to keep you where you are. It doesn't want you to be happy and have all your dreams. But I want you to. I want your brain to stop working against you, and I want to teach you how to make it work for you. You can have what you want if you stop playing the game of imposter syndrome, the game of distraction, instant gratification, and you start going over here and playing for the long haul. It might take you a couple years to gain enough awareness in order to see that bigger picture, but it's worth it. And if you choose to stay on autopilot, I will not look. I do not support that choice. I can't when I know how easy and worth it is to finally reconnect with yourself and know yourself again. To know what it feels like to be confident without needing approval, without needing and blaming and doing all these imposter syndrome things that are cray-cray. I want you to be you. I want you to see yourself as a magical, beautiful being. I want you to feel lucky that you got so lucky to have your brain, your soul, all of you here on earth right now. I want you to learn how to love yourself as much as I have learned how to love myself. But I know if you don't get started, you will never find out. Your unconscious self will keep looking for easy shortcuts or cheat codes because your brain is lazy and it really doesn't want to change. There is no shortcut. I wish if I could travel back in time, that's the thing I would tell myself, and I would save about 5 years of misery. But it's okay. I have learned how to make this process as quick and as painless and as easy for you by having done it the harder way myself. So when you come work with me, I give you the full curriculum. I give you the education, the awareness. I give you the map you need to take back to yourself, the mental map, right? Because it's not an action step we're doing, it's a thinking. So once you're finally there, everything else works itself out. I promise you. If you've been prioritizing anything else above this work that I've been talking about today, you're doing life backwards. You will arrive at your death having stayed under that limitation your whole way through. You'll have eaten oatmeal when your soul wanted Michelin star restaurants. Do you hear me? Stop eating nasty oatmeal and come work with me. You need to go to my website. It's ElliciaTurnerCoaching.com. Click on the free consultation button and book your free call right now. It's a 1-hour call. I do an intake. I assess where you're at in this process, and I make sure we're a good fit. And then we just plan our first call and we rock and roll together from there. There's absolutely nothing stopping you from doing this. I know there's not. You know there's not. So take action while 5% of your conscious brain is still online before it goes back to sleep and that 95% takes over again. You keep waiting on things to change outside of you, and that's not how this world works. You are the change you have been looking for. It's going to come from within you. You're the leader, the lover, the hero, the genius that you have been waiting for. So I want to show you how that's true. We work together in 6-month increments, but based on where you are, you might want to extend that, whatever. Some people say they're staying with me forever. I'm all in. I don't care what the length is as long as you do something to get started right now. Go to my website, book that consult, and start these 3 steps. I am still offering 40% off through the holidays. I have limited spots available. I intend to fill these spots with this discount. So once I'm full, that discount will disappear. So claim it, grab it. It's yours for the taking. I want you to allow yourself to be fully seen, be fully heard, and be fully valued, because this is how you value yourself. You invest in your mental and emotional health. I need more of you to come alive with me. I'm getting so lonely over here when everyone else is still over here. Come love yourself with me and party where there are no more crippling doubts and fears. All right? Come blow your own mind. Come find out how powerful you are. Help me unite our community, our country, make all these positive changes that this planet desperately needs. We need you, okay? And I can't wait to get started. It has gotten so dark. I need to start turning a light on before I do this. So don't wait another second. Cosmologically speaking, we have absolutely no time to waste. Go to EliciaTurnerCoaching.com, book that consult. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something useful about imposter syndrome. All right. See you later. Bye.